Okay, like you can see the sound. I'm just saying, go ahead. Hi folks, I'll be with you in a second here, but look on the computer, you can see the sound up there. It should just go up to the red occasionally. Okay, when I'm speaking, so but that's okay. If it does, so anyway, okay, today is the 19th, and this is just a little special broadcast concerning Treaty of Peace 2020. I try to get as much information out to the people as I possibly can. That's why the website, which actually began in 2015, has been dedicated to chronicling and being a main source of information for exactly what's going on, and especially at this point, since there is now an arbitration award and a contract that you can opt into because of that arbitration award. So I just wanted to take some time today, go over a few things. I will connect the phone so that you can call later, okay, after I go through some things. I want to show you that things are happening. I get a call pretty much every day from the post office. So I get an update, daily update from the post office because there's so much mail coming in, and it's a small post office, and I have to go there and sign for certified mail, and that takes up a lot of time. So we're trying to work it out so that it doesn't, I'm not there too long. It usually takes me about 45 minutes to go through the, signing of documents to get the mail. But the opt-in at this point, which is done by both sending me a paper copy, and you email the scan of the paper copy to Washington, and they tell me that we have about 800 opt-ins at this point. It has been extended to December 25th, and January 7th will actually be when people go to Congress, go to Washington, D.C., and talk to their representatives for a bill on the private side for settlement for this award. So there's still some time. I believe there'll be a lot more opt-ins. The information is being spread to different kinds of groups like veterans and people who are fighting vaccines. That's something I want to bring up today. But just to show you, I've got a box here, and this is presently the opt-ins, and I suppose it's probably about 40 or 50 pounds of opt-ins here. A lot of it's certified mail, return receipt and stuff like that, but it's exciting. It's exciting. These are people who want to practice free will, something God gave us that He'll never take away. And it's exciting. If you don't have liberty, you could be in prison and have free health care, have your meals planned for you, everything. You basically don't have to do anything except obey. So you don't have freedom. But guess what? A lot of people don't want to be in prison because they want freedom. Now, there are people that become institutionalized and they're afraid of freedom. And I live here just 5 miles from a medium security prison. And there were people who, when their parole came up, they would actually escape, go to the nearest bar, have some drinks, and wait to be picked up so that they could go back into prison and be taken care of. So, which is it? Do you want the responsibility that comes with the freedom? Well, that's a choice you have to make. So, I got a document here. You should be familiar with this, or at least know about it. Okay, you don't have to read it, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's in it. This was what was sent to the 5 people in government. President Trump, William Barr, went to the House to, it would have been Paul Ryan, who now has been replaced by Nancy Pelosi. But this was the document that is called the proof of claim. Conditional acceptance for value upon proof of claim. And I want to go through some things in here so that you have an idea of what this is all about. And if you watched some of the Bible study from earlier today, you'll see that this is not what a lot of people view or what they relate Christianity to. Okay, Christianity is not just all feel good fluff. It's a strong message, but God's reward and punishment system is far greater in both punishment and reward than what man can ever give you. So in this document, and I'm not going to read the 573 points of claim that were presented. For instance, proof of claim 271, the maxim of law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, does not apply to private law in support of private right, and that any man, and specifically the undersigned, as this relates to bears upon the above reference alleged matter, does have any duty, obligation, or compelling need to know the private law in support of a private right of any man or person. So anyway, there were 573 claims that were not refuted, that were not even addressed. And this whole process, which goes back to 2015, was basically ignored by all levels of state government and then all branches of federal government. So also in here, besides these proofs of claim, there are 468 maxims. Maxims are, well, let's see, I think I have the definition of a maxim. It's a principle of law universally admitted. It's part of the general customs or common law of the land, and are of the same strength as acts of parliament. By the way, these are definitions from Bouvier's 1856 law dictionary. So in here are 468 of these customs and common law principles that are universally accepted and that have the same strength as acts of parliament. Also in here are 71 Bible references. Okay? None of these proofs of claims were contended by the government. None of the maxims were. None of the biblical references. As a matter of fact, the entire Bible was entered into the record, or entered into the proof of claim in this document. Now, I'm going to go through a few of the scriptures that were referenced and how they're important. Psalms 82:6. I have said, ye are gods, small g, and all of you are children of the Most High. Understand that this contract, and actually the second document after this proof of claim is where my citizenship was renounced, and I took on the birthright of the heir of the Creator. Okay, the whole reason for the Bible studies that we have right here, that are open to the public and have been for over a decade. In other words, anyone could come here and participate. It's an open invitation. Okay, is to understand who that Most High is. Once you understand that, you understand you have a different worldview. You understand what creation is for. You understand what your purpose in it is. So it says that ye are gods. Now, not big G, little g. Okay? Satan said you could be a big G God, that you didn't need God. But, we are heirs of the King, so therefore we are gods too. But not the God. We are simply his creation and inherit his kingship. Okay? John 8:32, and this is Christ speaking. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Wow. What we tried to do was present truth. Why were we not rebuked, or why was this not rebuted? Well, simply because there was truth in it. And how could they say it wasn't? Silence is tacit admission that we were right. Ezekiel 44:24. And in controversy they shall stand in judgment, and they shall judge it according to my judgments, and they shall keep my laws and my statutes in all my assemblies, and they shall hallow my Sabbaths. Again, this is who is the person whose laws and judgments and Sabbaths and everything. Well, it's the Creator, Acts. This is Acts 5:29. And then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than man. Now think about it. Who you serve? God or mammon? God or government? Peter says we ought to obey God. And of course they got in trouble for it. What did the disciples do that got them in trouble? They didn't obey God. They didn't obey the established the establishment when Christ had come with a new covenant and said, no, the sins have been paid for by the blood of Christ. You don't have to do the sacrifice anymore. And the Christians were saying that, and they were being persecuted for it. Ephesians 4:14, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness whereby they lay in wait to deceive. We certainly are in a world where, it's you feel like you're constantly being watched, constantly being sometimes even led to do something that'll get you in trouble. Maybe it's a traffic light where the yellow is so quick that the red light, and then it takes your picture, and now you got to pay. Okay, their craftiness, they lie and wait to deceive. James 2:8, if you fulfill the royal law according to the Scripture, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, ye do well. So this is, I am my brother's keeper. And you are too, if you take on the yoke of being an heir to the King. Luke 16:13, no servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. 1 Thessalonians 4:6, that no man goeth and defraud his brother in any matter, because that the Lord is the avenger of all such, as we also have forewarned you and testified. Okay. 2 Thessalonians 3:17, now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Again, this is about free will and serving the true master. 1 Timothy 8-12, but we know that the law is good, if a man use it lawfully, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for the sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers and fathers, and murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for warmongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other that is contrary to sound doctrine. You see, this is very important. Here it says that the law The law is made for the lawless. This is to keep the lawless, keep them in check, or have them pay, or have them decide that, I don't want to do that because I'm going to get in trouble. What we have now is something like 34 million laws that micromanage you. Well, that is not law for the disobedient. That's law for the righteous man. And that's the biggest problem we have with government now. It's not to prohibit what it is to prohibit. It's not to penalize the guilty. It's to prohibit and control those that aren't guilty. That's why you should want free will. So that you're not tied down, that you're not oppressed with all these laws that shouldn't be there, that shouldn't be controlling you. Like your travel. That should be a right, not a privilege. That you have to do things, jump through hoops to be able to travel. Okay, maxims. Now here's some maxims. I'll go through these a little faster. He who affirms must prove. Okay, actually we did that with the government. We said, okay, here are these 573 things that you are doing. Prove that you have the authority to do it. And they couldn't. 2, a delegated power cannot be delegated. How about when the people gave Congress the power and the authority and the responsibility to control the money, and then they turned it over to a private company called the Federal Reserve, 8 banking families. It says a delegated power cannot be delegated. Deceit and fraud should always be remedied. Again, is this important in Treaty of Peace 2020? It should be remedied. If you let oppression go, you are not remedying fraud and deceit. Number 5, from a wrong, no right can arise. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall. That which is not otherwise lawful, necessity makes lawful, and necessity makes a privilege which supersedes law. This is an interesting one. It says, what is not otherwise lawful, necessity makes lawful. You see, we had a lawful way to solve a problem with the government, and that was to petition the government for redress of grievances. When that doesn't work, then you have to go to something out of necessity to right the wrong, and that was arbitration. So there has always been this process of arbitration as a necessity when things can't be worked out. Right and fraud never dwell together. The law of God and the law of the land are all one. Anything outside of God's laws, it's like, let's go back to the Nuremberg trials. Okay, there were people that said, I was following the law. And the precedent set in the Nuremberg trial was, guess what? There's a law greater than what any country can come up with. And you were breaking God's laws. And you are going to pay for that. So any law outside of God's law is unlawful. An unjust law is not a law. Law will always give a remedy, such as arbitration. Liberty is more favorable than all things. Liberty, free will. Men are not included under the name of merchandise. Men are not included under the name of merchandise. This is a maxim. These things are time-tested, accepted truths. And yet we have what? Department of Human Resources. It kind of makes you sound like merchandise, doesn't it? Resources. That tells you the thinking. Next one, custom and agreement overrule law. Again, that's arbitration. No one should be retained in partnership against his will. Okay? If you are a citizen, you are in partnership with the government. You have said, I will partner with you. I will agree to your statutes. If this says no one should be retained in partnership against his will, that's your choice then. Okay? That's what Treaty of Peace 2020 is all about. Do you want a partnership as a citizen, or do you want to have the birthright of heir of the Creator? 17. Contracts which are not against law and do not originate in fraud are in all respects to be observed. Contracts which are not against law and do not originate in fraud. Well, see, that's the problem. If we had that, and we didn't have fraud in government, and we didn't have breaking of the contract, then, I would say, well, why do this? If you can partner with a lawful government, but how can you partner with an unlawful government? You see? 18. He who is silent appears to consent. And that's exactly why we went to arbitration. And that's why it was ruled in our favor. They didn't. They did apply consent by being silent and not even come to the hearing that was scheduled. That is the highest law which favors religion. Makes sense. He who does not speak the truth freely is a traitor to the truth. That would be a sin of omission. A commission sin is one where you do something. An omission sin is something where you should have done something, but you didn't. I think it's in the book of James. It says, for a man to know good, to know to doeth right, and doeth it not, to him it is a sin. Okay? Our government actually penalizes those who practice that and try to and go out of their way and maybe be a good Samaritan to help someone. Now you're actually penalized for doing good, for an act of helping someone, going out of your way to help someone. Of course, this is the last one. If the foundation fails, all fails. So, hopefully the government will have impetus in what's being done by people demanding truth and saying, well, we're just not going to contract with you if you can't obey the contract. Okay? Hopefully that will be an impetus for the government to get their act together and say, you know what? We messed up. We should repent and turn from our wicked ways. And in the bigger scheme of things, the Bible says that if my people, repent and turn from their wicked ways and seek the Lord, then He can heal your land. That's a pretty tall order, but that's something I would love to see. If you can help yourself, fine. If you can help in the greater good, that's so much better.
In America, the people govern, the people rule, and the people are sovereign. I was elected not to take power, but to give power to the American people where it belongs.